Do you guys remember Marvel's Avengers? That game that no one liked? Well, guess what? I did. Now, I can understand where a lot of the hate for this game comes from. I really can. But underneath and I'll be honest, pretty shit endgame, is a game that has some amazing potential. There's three things in particular I want to discuss in this video. First being the story, then the gameplay, and the future content coming. So, first things first. Let's start out with the story. I think this is often the most praised aspect of this game by far, and personally, I think rightfully so. I really only watch the Marvel movies. I haven't really read many of the comics, so having a story like the one in this game is very appreciated. This game lets us see characters like MODOK get the spotlight for once, organizations like AIM, which are very cool to see. And overall, MODOK and AIM were pretty compelling villains. I understood, why he wanted to destroy the Avengers, because, Tony Stark was an asshole. Okay, maybe that part wasn't too original, but hey. All the other characters showcased throughout the game's story were also very well done. In particular, I really liked Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and their relationships towards the beginning of the game was very good. The story isn't all sunshine and roses, though. There are still a few crap stains showing. The most obvious being the lack of development for characters like Thor and Captain America. Both really only show up towards the end of the very short 8-hour campaign. But at least Captain America has a few lines, and you get to know who the character is. But Thor just shows up, you play as him for one mission, and then he fucks off until the last mission and says like 2 lines. I'm also not the biggest fan of Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel. I knew about her character before the game was announced, playing her in things like Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, or just, learning about the comics, but I've never really been a fan. She just comes off as a pretty annoying fangirl who is apparently a superhero. It's just not really my thing, but I understand why some people enjoy it. But the last issue I want to discuss with the story is its length. Oh my god, is this game short? I beat the story in about 7.5, 8 hours, and that would normally be okay for a game like Call of Duty or something, where, there's ample amounts of extra content. But for an Avengers-based story-driven experience with all of these characters, I feel like it should have been at least 15 hours long to flesh out characters like Cap and Thor a bit more. And maybe, make MODOK a bit more compelling, even though I think they did a pretty good job of that. Overall, I still really enjoyed the story of Marvel's Avengers, and I'm interested to see, where they take it with the future DLC. Speaking of future DLC, I think the future of this game looks very bright if things keep going the way they are. I don't know if any of you heard, as the player count didn't really increase that much when it came out, but the Avengers game recently released their first post-launch DLC character, Kate Bishop. Yay? I know what you're thinking. Kate Bishop? Really? Of all the characters, they chose Kate Bishop as their first? And yes, they did. When I first heard the news that Kate Bishop was going to be the first post-launch hero, I was like many of you. I was pretty peeved off, but then I actually played it. Man, is Kate the best feeling character in this game by far. If you bought this game back in September and uninstalled it because, you thought it sucked, I would highly recommend at least looking into re-downloading it for some of the future DLC. Because if it keeps going the way Kate Bishop went, the future looks very bright. Even the story for Kate Bishop's DLC was pretty interesting, and it was only about 3 hours long, or 3.5 hours long, which is almost half the length of the entire campaign. I won't spoil anything here, but the ending of this DLC makes me even more optimistic for this game's future than I was before. But let's say you don't like Kate Bishop and you don't want to play as her because she just looks like a boring bow and arrow lady with nothing else to her. Even though I'd say you're wrong, there's still plenty to look forward to in terms of future DLC. At the moment, there's 3 more DLC characters confirmed to be happening, with like 20 more in some stage of development. Those 3 are Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Spider-Man. I would be the most excited for Spider-Man, but unfortunately I play on PC, and the friendly people at Sony had to make him a PlayStation exclusive. So I won't be able to experience him, at least for the time being. So hopefully it's only a timed exclusive so they could garner some of the good faith they had before launch. So let's go over these DLC characters. So when they first announced Hawkeye as post-launch DLC, I wasn't really excited at all. Hawkeye has never been my favorite character. He's never been the most interesting. But when they showed that little teaser for him at the end of the Kate Bishop livestream, I couldn't be more excited. The Hawkeye update will take players to a dystopian future nightmare world where Maestro Hulk is presumably reigning over everything. And oh man, does that look interesting. We don't really know a lot about the Black Panther DLC, aside from the fact that, well, it's happening sometime in the future, and it'll include a new region being Wakanda. The new region part is enough to get me in, because if you've played any of this game's endgame, you'll know how needed more diverse locations are. Because in the base game, we have like 4, maybe less, I don't know. None of them are very interesting. It's just snow, desert, forest, city, and that's pretty much it. You know, it's not like Marvel has a bajillion and a half interesting locations to explore or anything, but I guess those 4 are really all we could ask for, aren't they? And as for Spider-Man, we don't really know very much about him, except, once again, that he's happening. He's going to be a PlayStation exclusive, and it's probably not going to be as big as something like a Black Panther or Hawkeye DLC, as it's exclusive to one platform. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the post-launch and story and stuff, but now I want to get into the gameplay. For a lot of people, Avengers gameplay is very hit or miss, and I can agree with that sentiment to an extent. Some characters, like the Hulk, feel kind of spongy and weaker than they should be, but other characters like Iron Man, when you learn how to properly use his combo system, feels amazing to use. I would say of the 7 playable characters that there are currently, the ones that can really be fun to use are Iron Man, Captain America, Kate Bishop, and from what I've played of him, Thor. I haven't played him all that much. 4 out of 7 isn't that bad, and it's not like the other characters feel particularly bad to play. But like I said previously, Hulk just feels a bit lucid and odd to use. Black Widow feels a bit jittery and janky, and Miss Marvel doesn't have as many interesting moves or combos as the other characters. But that being said, all of the characters can unlock a bunch of new abilities through their respective skill trees, which is pretty robust and expansive for each character, even though a lot of the basic moves may be pretty similar to each other. You can also use things like the god-awful gear system to give you some percentage increases for attacks and such, and maybe a special ability like shrinking guys here and there. But I'm making this video to talk about the things I like about this game, not the other stuff. But yeah, the combat may be fun, but I don't think it's good enough to carry this game's endgame on its back. Overall, yeah, Marvel's Avengers can be a pretty mixed bag of stuff. There's plenty of bad stuff I didn't really talk about in this video, like how you fight pretty much the same enemy over and over again, fighting in the same aim labs over and over again, doing the same missions over and over again, while getting a bunch of useless gear that does pretty much nothing and doesn't even change your character's look. But underneath all of that garbage is a game that has so much potential with its story, world, and gameplay, and all of the progression systems that aren't including gear. The DLC plan, if executed properly, looks amazing, and I believe if they focus on what makes this game good and remove all the bloat that everyone hates, like the gear system, then we can really have another gaming redemption story to rival the likes of Battlefront 2 or No Man's Sky. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of you. I love you all, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye.